Coming up next on Columbus Connection, we're going to talk about how you can help an organization that is fighting to stop sex trafficking right here in the community. Stay tuned. Welcome to Columbus Connections. I am your host, David Britt. Now, we have all heard about the horrors of human trafficking, and many of you may know that it happens right here in our community. Now, you may not be ready to be right on the front lines of that, but there is an organization that is, and that's Micah's Promise. So if you want to be someone to help out, we're going to tell you how you can help this great organization. And with me, I have Miss Bobby Starr.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You've been on the show a couple times. We're going to have you back as often as we can because this is a big thing. Tell us about Micah's Promise. Tell us about the work you do and why it's so important.
So Micah's Promise, we're fighting sex trafficking of children, as you know, through prevention and awareness education, and ultimately we're building a therapeutic treatment facility for girls aged 12 to 17 that have been sex trafficked in the state of Georgia. There's a really great need in our state for therapeutic facilities, and we're going to add 12, the ability to care for 12 to the number that the state needs.
Yeah. How did you get involved in this work?
That's a good question. So I was an advocate in this community for years, and back in 2009 I went to a conference in New Orleans, and at that conference I learned about domestic minor sex trafficking. And I actually learned at that conference the presenters were from Atlanta. And so those presenters were telling us that Atlanta was in the top 15 at the time, it's now in the top 5. And that the kids came, they were American kids, and they came from all over our state. And they challenged me to go back to Columbus, this was 10 years ago, they challenged me to go back to Columbus and build a therapeutic treatment facility. Because 10 years ago, the children were being arrested and charged.
Right.
Right. They were getting, they were re-victimized by the juvenile justice system.
Wow. So in 10 years, what changes have you seen?
Ooh, there have been so many amazing changes. So
That's
10
good.
years ago, people did not believe this was an issue.
Yeah.
They did not believe it was happening. It certainly, in their mind, was not happening in Columbus, Georgia. And even so I went back to school. So even in school, at college, in my criminal justice books, they called prostitution a victimless crime and things like that. And now all of that
in the justice books, they
in the
call
criminal justice
prostitution
books,
a victimless crime.
Prostitution was a victimless crime. We now know that individuals who are in prostitution have a high level of trauma from their childhoods, that a good number of them are there because somebody's actually trafficking them, and that they have a 40% higher mortality rate.
Wow.
So they incur a lot of violence. But trafficked children, the other things that have changed, so we've had a lot of changes in the laws and legislation. So it's been almost 20 years since the federal government wrote the federal laws about trafficking. And then the safe harbor legislation came out in 2017, which said if a child was engaged in prostitution, a child was a victim, and their juvenile record should be expunged. But it wasn't until July, this past July, that bipartisan agreement and Governor Kemp signed into law some sweeping anti-trafficking legislation that made all of us really excited. Because number one, we can no longer charge a child under the age of 18. So it defined a child as anyone under the age of 18. We can't charge a child with prostitution. That was a huge win, because before July 1st, we were charging children with prostitution. The other law was that we now treat the buyer, the demand side of trafficking, the buyer, we treat them with the same penalties that the trafficker gets.
Wow.
That's really important because the demand side drives this issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's simple economics, right?
Yeah.
Demand and supply, or supply and demand. But, and then the other great thing is that First Lady Marty Kemp of Georgia, she has taken on the issue of trafficking. So because they're in the limelight, being the governor and the governor's wife, more people are paying
Right.
attention.
Right.
And so that's a big help, because there have been people at this work in our state and nationally for years, like Micah's Promise, but now we're able to all come together
Right.
and make a huge impact.
Right. So speaking of the impact, you
Yeah.
have an event coming up on the 28th.
Yes.
Tell us about what you're going to be doing then.
It's so exciting. So this is our very first fundraising luncheon. We have actually raised $1.4 million of the 1.5 that we need to build our therapeutic treatment facility. But above and beyond the building the facility, we need to raise $350,000 to run the facility until we can start getting reimbursement from the state. So this fundraiser is to bring in the community to learn more about Micah's Promise, but also just to celebrate hope and healing.
Yeah.
Our keynote speaker is Craig and Fred. It's Craig Grossi, and he was a Marine, and he rescued a dog in Afghanistan, and the dog rescued him from PTSD.
Yeah.
So he wrote a book. It's now on the New York Times bestsellers list. He was featured in Fortune 500 magazine in December. And it's just an amazing story. And their message is spread kindness, spread love, and stubborn positivity. So the tie for us there is that people don't understand that trafficking victims have the similar PTSD rates as returning service members from combat.
Right.
So if we can care about our soldiers healing from PTSD, then we can engage and care about our children who are suffering from PTSD.
Absolutely.
because
These are
they've
our
been trafficked.
daughters, our sisters, our sons as well.
Our
that
sons
are
as well.
in our household experiencing these, and in our
Absolutely.
relatives. So
Yeah, and one of the best ways is to buy a ticket. Come to
Yeah.
the luncheon, have a good time, and invest in the restoration of stolen childhoods, because
Yeah.
that's what we're all about.
yeah. Tell us the when and where the luncheon is and where we can buy those tickets.
Yeah, so the luncheon is at St. Luke Ministry Center. The tickets are for sale online right now at Micah's Promise website. Go to our Micah's Promise website, click on Craig and Fred, and on that page, click on register for the event. And or through Facebook, you can click on our event through Facebook, or call us at the office if you're unsure about how to order a ticket online, which a lot of folks are. They can just call us at Micah's Promise at 706-507-0825, and we'll make sure that they get their ticket.
All right. And you guys are a real trusted organization. We were talking before we started filming that you guys were just up in the Capitol, and you guys got some really big accolades up there.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I felt like I was in the room full of the cool kids.
Yeah.
When you've been after something for a really long time and you're just a small group and you feel like you're swimming upstream, we had the opportunity to sit in on First Lady Marty Kemp's Grace Commission, and our mentor, Mary Frances Boley, who's the founder of Wellspring Living, and she'll be at our luncheon. She's one of the speakers at our luncheon. She's going to make sure to let everybody in Columbus know how desperate the need is for the work that we're doing. And so during that meeting, Mary Frances gave a shout out to us and let everybody know in the room. And everybody in the room was the head of the GBI, FBI is represented, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, just all of the people at the top that have been dealing with this issue. So she gave us a shout out because we'll be the 4th certified Criminal Justice Coordinating Council certified facility in our state.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And she showed a map that shows throughout our state where care is, and there's this huge emptiness in Middle Georgia. And we're going to be we'll serve the whole state, but we're really leading the way for Middle Georgia, which is kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But and then the very next day, Ivanka Trump was in Atlanta to visit Mary Frances Boley, our mentor, to visit with her and to tour the Wellspring Living facility that Mary Frances founded 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's huge things happening right now, and very exciting.
And that's what's great about these type of initiatives, is that it's across party lines. It's just a right thing to do. It's just a problem that's going on that needs to be fixed.
Yes.
And people that have the resources to fix it are out front trying to do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
amen to that. And that's what I really want people to understand. This is not a political thing.
Right.
Everybody has to agree that protecting our children,
Right.
is the most important thing. I mean, they're our future.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Give us those dates again.
So January 28th at 11:30 a.m. at St. Luke Ministry Center on 2nd Avenue. Tickets are online, micahspromise.org. Click on Craig and Fred, then click register for the event.
And you'll be hearing a lot more from Micah's Promise because they will definitely be back on the show. This is an awesome way for anyone who's interested in helping this worthy cause. Thank you for watching. This is Columbus Connections.